Hello everyone, today I'll explain 5 technical questions from the CCNA exam. Let's start with the first. The first question is a multiple choice question. It asks, what are the 2 functions of the domain name system, DNS? First, regarding the first function, it says that DNS builds a platform structure for names to achieve more efficient IP operations. This is incorrect. It's completely wrong. In fact, I'll just tell you the correct answer. The correct answer is D. DNS allows applications to identify resources using domain names instead of IP addresses. That's because IP addresses are hard for us to remember, right? When the host wants to access a server, you need to enter a domain name. The address you might have to type in could be something like 123.2.223.3 or 233.1, for example. Let's say its domain name, or rather its IP address, is something like this. But even though you can access it by typing in the IP address, you can't remember too many of them. That's why we come up with an easier to remember domain name like www.thinkmo.net and bind it to this IP address. It's much easier for us to remember this name, right? Then, when we enter this name, we can't directly access the server. First, it goes to a DNS server, right? After the DNS server finds this binding relationship, it will give you the IP address. Once you have the IP address, you can then use it to access the server for thinkmo.net, right? That's what this function does. So the correct answer is D. And as for E, it allows a single host domain name to be shared across multiple IP addresses. In other words, my domain name can be bound to multiple IP addresses. So what's the correct answer for the IP? It's D and E. Let's take a look at the correct answer. D and E. All right, next question. This particular question is about the DHCP protocol. If you want to learn Cisco technologies or get access to Cisco question banks, feel free to send me a private message or leave a comment below the video to discuss technical topics. It says, in Cisco iOS, specifically within the command line interface system of Cisco, which particular command effectively indicates that the Gigabit Ethernet 0x0 interface has been successfully configured via DHCP. Which of the following configurations is indeed the most correct and appropriate one? The absolutely correct one is this. We meticulously check the interface. We thoroughly examine this specific interface, right? Let's check the Internet Protocol address of this particular interface. Specifically, we can use the command show IP interface 0. So, the absolutely correct answer for this question is D. Therefore, you should choose option D. Alright, now let's proceed and look at question number 3. Question 3 says, if you configure this command on the router, what will happen? We all know this is SNMP, which stands for Simple Network Management Protocol, a widely used protocol for managing and monitoring network devices. And this specific configuration is called a trap. A trap, in the context of SNMP, means that the network device, like a switch for example, actively and proactively sends unsolicited alarm information or event notifications to a designated management server, rather than waiting for the server to pull it, right? This mechanism ensures that critical events are reported immediately, allowing for prompt attention and resolution. In other words, the device will send alarm information to the log host, that is, to the log server, which means it sends it here. The correct answer is C. Alright, question 4. For question 4, it says the network management log host. Let me just pull it up. This is a multiple choice question. It specifically asks about the particular command that the network administrator typically enters on the router, and more precisely, it refers to this very specific command, this login trap 3. The fundamental question is, what exactly does this particular command signify or mean in the context of network administration? That is to say, for example, with this switch, which type of log host information will be sent to the server? Here, the number 3 is specified, meaning that 3 types of log information will be sent to this server. So what this means is that the log host information ranges from 0 to 7, right? How many are there in total? There are 8 in total, 8. The smaller the number, the more urgent it is. The larger the number, the less urgent. So the smaller the number, the more serious it is, and the larger the number, the less serious it is. Basically, just notification messages. The larger the number, the less severe it is, right? So when we write 3, it means we send the first 3, the most urgent ones, to the server. The first 3 are 0 to 2. 0, 1, and 2. These 3 are the most urgent. So what are these 3? Right, option B is emergency and critical, option D is critical, and then there's error. These 3 options, B, D, and F, if you look at the first one, it's just information. That's A, which is actually just informational. Then C is an alert, and E is a test message, a debugging message. So the correct answer is B, D, and F. B, D, and F are the more serious and urgent ones. All right, question 5. For question 5, it says that a network engineer must perform a global backup of the configurations for 20 network routers in a customer environment. So which configuration, or rather which protocol, allows the engineer to use Cisco's MIB information base, that is the Cisco image MIB? This information base is SNMP. It uses the MIB information base to retrieve device information to identify the device's details, right? The name you give your device, whether you call it SW1 or 21, doesn't really matter. That's just a name we assign to the device. What truly matters, however, is that every interface, every device, and even components like the mainboard inside all have corresponding MIB information codes. So SNMP works by accessing this MIB information base. Therefore, the correct answer is B. Yes, for SNMP, the correct answer is B. Let's check the correct answer. It's B. All right, submit. If you want to learn Cisco technologies or get access to Cisco question banks, feel free to message me privately or leave a comment below the video for technical discussions.